Hi everybody, welcome back. I see you're all sort of slowly trickling in here today after your exhausting holiday. Everybody have a good one? Yes, okay, yes, yes. Is that why you're so tired? Because you had such a good vacation? Oh, good. We had a student in here last semester who said, if you don't come back a few pounds heavier from your holiday or vacation, did you really even have a good time? I know Marianne didn't like that. She wants us to stay healthy most of the time, right? That's what you want us to do. That's good. That's good.
It's about balance, though.
Yeah, you do have to have a balance. That's definitely true. Well, I received several messages this morning from people who were like worried about the weather and they have all kinds of things going on, or they're not feeling well, or whatever's happening in their life is preventing them from being here today. However, you all made it, so that shows you that it is possible to get here today. And I'm sure some of you who drove from off campus? Yeah, it was over half the class. Okay, so today we have a few things to do. We're really just wrapping up the class. I had one more speech or two speeches that weren't accomplished, but those people are not here today either. But Kendall is, so we can get started now. Just kidding, we're just kind of getting going. Last week of class. And we only have one more speech, and that is going to be the final exam speech. And do you know where to look for the final exam schedule? Nobody saying yes on that? There you go. It's on My RSU. So let's see if we can get there. Why don't you give me the screen here? Now I'm not sure if it's going to actually let me have it. Let's see. Somebody else is already trying to log into this. It's not liking that. Another account. Let's try that one. My understanding is we're in here next Monday, but we'll make sure of that. And then that's going to be the end of this class. Oh, good thing I have my phone, since we're all cyborgs. What's a cyborg?
Half human, half
Yeah, half human, half machine. See, I would not be able to get into my email if I didn't have my phone, so therefore I'm not functioning if I can't have access to it. I really don't like to bring my phone to class, but I'm always concerned that I'm not going to be able to log in to my account if I don't. Oh, there's some messages here this morning. We can go ahead and let's go to the institution page. What we really want is our home page. Can't we just go there? There's all your classes. Well, RSU Final Exam Schedule 2025. Ball. There we go. That's how easy it is to find. I don't even have to do all that other stuff. Okay, so we're looking at it, and we can put the computer screen on the screens for those at home as well as here in the classroom. Thank you. So let's see what it says here. Monday, December 8th. Classes that meet we want at noon. Oh, you know what? Then maybe we get to do our own thing. We'll just make up our own time. What do you say? Likely what they're planning on. Here's Monday, Wednesday. Those are at Wednesday, though. Monday, December 8th, 11:30. Okay, here's what I'm going to say. Somehow we're not on the list because we're such an odd duck class. So I'm going to say Monday at noon will be our final. And then we'll be completo after that. So you might look at your final schedule and make sure that you're not clashing with anything, but everybody should be able to be here, even based on the schedule that I'm seeing here. Because that Monday, Wednesday has a little wiggle room in there from 11:30 to 1. So we'll have our final exam next Monday. What I'd like to do is practice for it on Thursday. Bless you. And what it will be is a short, extemporaneous, or spontaneous speech. Impromptu would be another word for that, where you don't actually know what you're going to be talking about. So you'll get some prompts, and I was going to show them kind of here. I have them on little slips of paper. And so what I do is put these little slips of paper out on the desk, and you come up and you just choose one. They're face down. And if you don't like the one you took, you can put it back and get another one. And so on Thursday, we're going to do a practice run of this and just see how it goes. So you never know what you're going to run into. That's why it's good to have a wide range of speaking ability. So extemporaneous and impromptu, same thing. You're making it up on the spot. And this is one that it's hard to really prepare for. So you really won't have any notes that you can use. You can't look anything up on your phone. It's just all going to come out of your head. And we know from the research that's coming out now about cell phone use, AI use, and brain use that the only way to develop your brain is to develop it independently of an electronic device doing the work for you. You can also include reading a book or any actual text that will also stretch your brain out, because we need that. The extemporaneous situation gives you an opportunity to express yourself about a topic, and you can kind of mold that topic to what you know. And think about how we've structured speeches in here. We introduce them with some sort of attention getter, and students typically will use a question for that. Have you ever thought about, have you ever, well, let me tell you, here's how you can approach this subject. It gives you an opportunity to express yourself in your own words about a subject that's kind of vague. Now, what's the point in here? As long as you do this, you're going to be fine. I'm not grading or giving you a critique sheet or anything. We have to give a final in this class. Every class is supposed to have a final. So you want to maintain your conversational ability. I've worked on that this semester. I think some of you have gotten better at not reading, but just speaking without having all your notes in front of you and going through them constantly. So as we go through this, the same things apply. And I've talked about these, and that's on my critique sheet. Your volume, you still want to present. You still want to get your voice out there so it gets to the back of the room. Be comfortable with your pauses. We don't have to say We just feel like we have to say something or make some kind of sound, but we don't. I've talked in here about varying your pitches so you don't just sound all straight and monotone, but there's a little more melody to the way that you speak. And of course, I'm big on pronunciation in here. Even if it's not something that you carry forward forever, it's important for you to know the professional standard of speaking, even if you are working within your own community and everybody talks a certain way. And of course, words change over time. And that's why understanding your audience is really important. So you're typically not going to walk up to your professor and say, or call them he or she bruh, right? So that's more of a young people's term. Whereas I think a little older people, next generation up, whether you go to your Gen Xers or whoever, used to say dude in the same way that people say bruh now. Dude could be a male or female, bruh, male or female. But who's your audience? Do you really even need to go that direction? So I've talked in here about dialect. That dialect shows where you come from. The question is, do you want to have people sucked into where you come from, or do you want to try and reach them on your level, that audience level? I've talked a lot in here about gestures, using your hands in front of you, that really can get people's attention. Not to get too wild with it, where you're filling up the screen all the way across. And I've said before, some speaking coaches say you should stay right within this little box that's right here when you use your hands and not get too wild with it. Every now and then that's important. On this situation, you can't move very far. Because if I go over here to talk, now I'm not on the screen anymore. Well, it's television. So we have to make sure that we stay in frame here. But if you're speaking to a class that's not on television or a group of people, you're on a stage, it's good to walk back and forth. Making eye contact with people. And going around the room and looking at everybody if you can. And as I've said before, if you're shy about that, you don't want to do that, just look at their nose, look at the bridge of their nose. Or if you're really shy about that, look at like right at the top of their head. They'll kind of get you're not looking at them there. But if you look at the bridge of somebody's nose, you're not making eye contact with them, so you don't have that going on. But it does look to them like you're making eye contact. So these are all important things. When you do your extemporaneous speech, you only really need a couple minutes. How do we answer questions when someone asks a question? Do we just provide an answer? Or do we frame it by restating part of the question? That's really the way that we want to go. How easy is it to answer these questions? David, what's the best thing about Thanksgiving?
Food.
What's the worst thing about Thanksgiving?
Food.
So David didn't really say very much there except one word for both answers. Right? So, Kelsey, what's the best thing about going to college?
The best thing about going to college is the community I'm surrounded by.
Okay, so there you go. So see the way that she used the question and then set up the answer by doing that. Good. So think in terms of that. We've talked a lot in here about speaking, but we haven't talked so much about listening. And listening is really, really important. In American culture, we tend to want to talk fast, and we tend to want to get our points of view in as soon as we can. We don't let anybody even get the last word out of their mouth before we're ready to jump in there with what we have to say. When you listen to somebody and you validate what they say with any kind of response to what they've said that gets them to talk more, how did that make you feel? What do you think you're going to do now? Give them a chance to go on a little bit more. A person that hears just one question from you about them and gives them a chance to talk a little bit more about themselves, they really think you're listening to them. And that's good. You want that communication to go on. So, being quiet sometimes can have its advantages, just listening. And I don't know if I've told this story in here before, but my son's Native, and so I'm around the Native world a lot. And one of the things I learned about Native older people especially is they won't speak up too quickly. Let's be quiet. Whole younger people might be really going on, and the older people will just sort of not say anything. And I was talking with some older people about this one day. I said, we just listen and take everything in. Somebody asks us something, we'll provide an answer. But we don't necessarily feel like we have to have an opinion on everything everybody says. They'll find out. And there's also a tradition in some Native ways of being humble and not telling somebody else they're wrong. Let them find out they're wrong. That's the best lesson right there. Not me saying, Caden should have worn long pants today. It's 30 degrees outside. What you do is like, oh, see, Caden's wearing shorts today. He's going to find out it's 30 degrees outside. And you did, right? So now you learn by experience. And I'll tell you this, if you get into a conference room situation where it's you and a bunch of your peers or coworkers or team members or whatever sitting around a table, and everybody's talk, and they all say their opinions, and you stay quiet, guess what that does for you? You get the benefit of hearing what everybody else thinks. Because you may just think what one other person thinks. But when you hear what everybody else has to say, you haven't said anything, you can now say the wisest thing in the room. Because you've already heard what everybody else thinks. Now you can say what you have to say based on this context of understanding what everybody else is thinking about, where they're coming from. I've seen that work lots of times. Or don't say anything. Wait for somebody to say, well, what do you think about it? And then that gives you the opportunity then to be asked to speak, and you have the perspective of everybody else said. Now you can offer some wise information. So, having said all that, I want to get to the idea of staying on track and doing what you want to do. So I thought as I was coming to class today or this morning, what am I going to do today? Well, I want to make sure we set up the final. Let them know that we're going to practice for that on Thursday. And the way we're going to talk about it is talk a little bit about extemporaneous speaking. Go ahead, Kelsey.
Thursday or Wednesday?
I'm sorry, Wednesday. My other class is Thursday. Yeah, Wednesday. And then just talk a little bit about it, what to expect, how you're going to get into it. It's not a major stressor point. There's no grade on it. It's a check mark. Final exam completed. Okay? Then I wanted us to look at a historic speech. We haven't really watched other people speaking that much in this class. Seems like we watched the famous Navy Admiral, University of Texas commemoration speech. And we watched a couple of other smaller speeches throughout the course of the semester. But I wanted to look at one 15-minute speech, and there are a couple of reasons I wanted to go this direction. Let's go ahead and put the my computer screen on the screen up here, and also on for the folks at home. Got it up back here, pretty close to having it on the big TV. Okay, what I wanted to share with you today is a 15-minute speech, and I'm going to get you to not look at your phones while it's on, David. So just pay attention to it, because I think it's important to hear a professional speech. But this is an old speech. It's 64 years old. And I want you to think about a couple things. One, just how the then president, John F. Kennedy, introduced his whole administration. I've been elected, and here's what we're going to do. But how does he get this across? And then there's another thing. You know, this last fall, earlier in the fall, we had what one might consider a political death. We had a person who was very heavy on politics, and they were killed. Okay, well, John F. Kennedy was killed. And, of course, he was a politician, president of the United States. And so for people who were impacted by the political assassination of earlier this fall, that was sort of a micro level of what happened nationally in 1961. Meaning there were a group of people that were impacted by that particular political assassination this past fall. But there were a whole bunch of people who were not, because they weren't invested in that particular message that was being given by the person who was killed. So here we have the President of the United States of 1961 doing his speech, and people hated him. They especially hated him in Texas, and that's why he was killed there. Enough people hated him where they could set it up for him to be killed. Conspiracy, not even going there, because that's not our job. But think about how people felt who just come through the 1950s. And if you're not aware of the 1950s, McCarthyism, where people were ostracized for potentially being communists, put on blacklists and that kind of thing. So there was a lot of political witch hunting, we might call it, going on, similar to what we're experiencing today. But people had come out of that. And so the idea of John F. Kennedy being this young president gave all this positive opportunity and positive thinking for the country. So I want you to see his speech and hear what he has to say and how he's going to move the country forward. And what I emphasize here, just as a personal reflection, this is like the world I kind of grew up in thinking this is how it was supposed to be. So I'm obviously older, than y'all by a few generations. But I wanted to play it. I was watching this, and I've been waiting kind of for an opportunity to play this thing throughout the semester. It's only about 14 minutes long. So I'll ask you to just check it out here, okay? I know we're going to need some...
Johnson, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chief Justice, President Eisenhower, Vice President Nixon, President Truman, Reverend clergy, fellow citizens. We observe today not a victory of party, but a celebration of freedom symbolizing an end as well as a beginning, signifying renewal as well as change. For I have sworn before you and Almighty God the same solemn oath our forebears prescribed nearly a century and 3/4 ago. The world is very different now, for man holds in his mortal hands the power to abolish all forms of human poverty and all forms of human life. And yet the same revolutionary beliefs for which our forebears fought are still at issue around the globe. The belief that the rights of man come not from the generosity of the state, but from the hand of God. We dare not forget today that we are the heirs of that first revolution. Let the word go forth from this time and place to friend and foe alike that the torch has been passed to a new generation of Americans born in this century, tempered by war, disciplined by a hard and bitter peace, proud of our ancient heritage, and unwilling to witness or permit the slow undoing of those human rights to which this nation has always been committed and to which we are committed today at home and around the world.
Are we ready for this party?
Boo.
Guests are on their way and food and drinks were just delivered.
Now what about the music? It's gotta...
Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe to assure the survival and the success of liberty. This much we pledge and more. To those old allies whose cultural and spiritual origins we share, we pledge the loyalty of faithful friends. United, there is little we cannot do in a host of cooperative ventures. Divided, there is little we can do, for we dare not meet a powerful challenge at odds and split asunder. To those new states whom we welcome to the ranks of the free, we pledge our word that one form of colonial control shall not have passed away, merely to be replaced by a far more iron tyranny. We shall not always expect to find them supporting our view, but we shall always hope to find them strongly supporting their own freedom, and to remember that in the past, those who foolishly sought power by riding the back of the tiger ended up inside. To those people in the huts and villages of half the globe struggling to break the bonds of mass misery, we pledge our best efforts to help them help themselves. For whatever period is required, not because the communists may be doing it, not because we seek their votes, but because it is right. If a free society cannot help the many who are poor, it cannot save the few who are rich. To our sister republics south of our border, we offer a special pledge to convert our good words into good deeds. In a new alliance for progress, to assist free men and free governments in casting off the chains of poverty. But this peaceful revolution of hope cannot become the prey of hostile powers. Let all our neighbors know that we shall join with them to oppose aggression or subversion anywhere in the Americas. And let every other power know that this hemisphere intends to remain the master of its own house. To that World Assembly of Sovereign States, the United Nations, our last best hope, in an age where the instruments of war have far outpaced the instruments of peace, we renew our pledge of support to prevent it from becoming merely a forum for invective, to strengthen its shield of the new and the weak, and to enlarge the area in which its writ may run. Finally, to those nations who would make themselves our adversary, we offer not a pledge, but a request that both sides begin anew the quest for peace. Before the dark powers of destruction, unleashed by science, engulf all humanity in planned or accidental self-destruction. We dare not tempt them with weakness, for only when our arms are sufficient beyond doubt can we be certain beyond doubt that they will never be employed. But neither can two great and powerful groups of nations take comfort from our present course, both sides overburdened by the cost of modern weapons, both rightly alarmed by the steady spread of the deadly atom, yet both racing to alter that uncertain balance of terror that stays the hand of mankind's final war. So let us begin anew, remembering on both sides that civility is not a sign of weakness, and sincerity is always subject to proof. Let us never negotiate out of fear, but let us never fear to negotiate.
I'm being told this is Limu Emu from Liberty Mutual.
Go ahead.
Will help save you hundreds by customizing your car insurance. And his
At least they put him at the end of sentences.
Let both sides explore what problems unite us, instead of belaboring those problems which divide us. Let both sides, for the first time, formulate serious and precise proposals for the inspection and control of arms, and bring the absolute power to destroy other nations under the absolute control of all nations. Let both sides seek to invoke the wonders of science instead of its terrors. Together, let us explore the stars, conquer the deserts, eradicate disease, tap the ocean depth, and encourage the arts and commerce. Let both sides unite to heed in all corners of the earth the command of Isaiah to undo the heavy burdens and let the oppressed go free. And if a beachhead of cooperation may push back the jungle of suspicion, let both sides join in creating a new endeavor, not a new balance of power, but a new world of law, where the strong are just and the weak secure and the peace preserved. All this will not be finished in the first 100 days, nor will it be finished in the first 1,000 days, nor in the life of this administration, nor even perhaps in our lifetime on this planet. but let us begin. In your hands, my fellow citizens, more than mine, will rest the final success or failure of our course. Since this country was founded, each generation of Americans has been summoned to give testimony to its national loyalty. The graves of young Americans who answered the call to service surround the globe. Now the trumpet summons us again, not as a call to bear arms, though arms we need, not as a call to battle, though in battle we are, but a call to bear the burden of a long twilight struggle, year in and year out, rejoicing in hope, patient in tribulation, a struggle against the common enemies of man, tyranny, poverty, disease, and war itself. Can we forge against these enemies a grand and global alliance, north and south, east and west, that can assure a more fruitful life for all mankind? Will you join in that historic effort? In the long history of the world, only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger. I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it. I do not believe that any of us would exchange places with any other people or any other generation. The energy, the faith, the devotion which we bring to this endeavor will light our country and all who serve it. And the glow from that fire can truly light the world. And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Pow. Kind of a mic drop moment, I'd say, for him. All right, and come back to me for a second. And I wanted to play that all semester. I was kind of waiting for the right time. But I wanted to analyze it a little bit. Several of you came up here with notes. Did you notice that as he was speaking, he looked down and got his next 3 or 4 words? And then he looked up and did those 3 or 4 words. And then he looked down and got a few more. Speech delivery is a matter of nonverbal communication. It's based on how you use your voice and your body to convey the message you want to get across. Rather than calling attention to itself, effective delivery conveys the speaker's ideas clearly, engagingly, and without distracting the audience. So I did what he just did, which was look down, read ahead a little bit. I got those words in my head. I can look back up and talk. Also, no teleprompter there. So now contemporary presidents have 2 screens here where they look up and they can see what the words are, so it looks like they're looking out at the people. He didn't have that. He just got paper because there weren't teleprompters at that time. In addition to that, you can tell he was being emphatic because why? He's like, I will do this and that. So he's trying to get his point across in that way. So Kennedy was born in 1917, so that's 61. So he's like 44 at that point, you know. And when we talk about being presidential, being intellectual, this is what people talk about. So we've gone through a period now where some people say, well, that's not very presidential. Well, what do they even mean by that? Because we had a period of time where presidential figures were statesmen, had some intellect about them, and able to express themselves really clearly with regard to their vision for the country. And not to completely restate his whole speech, but a very important part of that to me is compromise. Let's not get caught up in where we disagree. Let's talk about where we agree and work from there. And who does he say are the enemies of the world? Tyranny. I mean, people just that have all the power, just ruling over people, doing whatever they want. What's another enemy? Disease is another enemy that we should all be commonly united against. What's another one? War. We should constantly be united not to be killing each other. And a very important one, poverty. I thought the quote I'd never picked up on that speech before that I heard for the first time really clearly this time was, some people want to ride the back of the tiger, but then they wind up inside of it. So you get too close to the tiger and think it's your pal. It's not, and will eat you. Unless I guess you brought it up since it was a tiger cub and trained it not to. Anybody know what the PT 109 story is associated with John F. Kennedy? What's that story? Anybody know? Again, this is something that we all used to learn way back in elementary school and so forth. When, if he's born in 1917, World War II, he's on a PT boat, which is a small Navy boat in the Pacific Ocean. And let's see, if I'm going to put that around, I don't know, 43, 44, somewhere in that range. And if he was born in 17, he's what, 25, 26 years old? So he's the commander of this PT boat. And a Japanese destroyer sees him. And they decide they're going to take him out. And so what they do is ram it right in the middle of the boat, and the little PT boat goes in half. Kills a couple of sailors on there. Who's left? John F. Kennedy and a few of his men. He gets them onto floating elements that are left over from the boat. One guy is so badly injured that he can't do anything. He puts him on his shoulder in the water, and they all sort of and they ultimately are rescued. But they're floating down the ocean. He's making sure this guy doesn't drown. Here's a 25-year-old. So in the past, we've had presidents who were war heroes, eloquent, intellectual, had a vision for the country. And this is the way I came up, that's what a president was. And so when I go back and look at this speech and I hear the things that he has to say, he encourages us at the end. He asks a question, are you with me? People are like, yeah. He said, well then, don't ask what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. Mic drop, thank you. He had a good closing statement. So I've always wanted to play that whole idea because there's a lot of things in it that here we are 63, 4 years later, and we're still dealing with some of the same issues that he was dealing with then. So I think it's important to look at famous speeches, but not to get too caught up in them because it was 60 plus years ago. And you don't always have the frame of reference for that. It's like playing a Martin Luther King Jr. speech or playing some other speech of a famous historical figure that we can play because technology existed to make a recording of it. So we don't have any speeches from people from the Revolution or great leaders of the past from pre-20th century because there wasn't the technology to record them at that time. Okay, so having shown that, thinking about speaking to, it was also really cold, you can tell, on that day. They went ahead and had it there outside. But I want to talk about a few things that I just want to get down here as you think about your college life and college career. And you don't take notes or anything, but I just want you to think about some of this stuff. That the most important thing that you develop here in college is not always your degree. It's usable skills. Now, AI is going to be a real challenge for you all coming out of college now. You have to be looking at what AI is going to do to your career field. You have to. But being able to speak clearly and communicate is a really important skill. And that comes out of this class, but also with other practice. Being able to manage a complex schedule is a skill that comes out of going to college. You got 4 or 5 classes, you got a lot of stuff to do at various times. You've got a job, you got family responsibilities. You're managing a lot here for the first time, a lot of you. So you want to think about things that you're learning here occasionally, if you can be reflective enough. How's this going to help me? This class, I think, is going to help throughout. My cinema class helps in a different way because it's more artistically driven and it asks you to look at visual media and be able to interpret it from a variety of points of view. Why is that important? Because you look at visual media every day and you're going to be looking at it most likely for the rest of your life, unless you take a technology detox every now and then and just get away from it if you can. But another important thing that you're going to do here is use this experience as a networking sandbox. You're going to meet one person here in college that you're going to know the rest of your life. You may not know who that is yet. And chances are, at some point, they're going to have an opportunity to help you out one way or another in your career field, or maybe just your life. So, talk to people. Ask them questions and then listen. And then ask them a follow-up question. Join a club. We have a lot of student clubs here. It's really important to get in those groups where you have like-minded individuals along with you, where you can learn where they're going with their particular interest in that specific area. You see somebody who's really motivated and doing a good job, I'm not saying you have to become friends with them, but at least you can ask them a couple questions. Start to communicate with them. Who are the leaders in your field? How are they getting to where they're wanting to go? Why don't they have any trouble with motivation? If you're not liking your class and your specific subject area, you have to start to make a judgment call as to whether or not it's the appropriate thing for you to be doing. And I'm sure you've heard this from other people. If you like your job and you like what you're doing and you like your field of study, it doesn't feel like work. You're always willing to go the extra mile. You're going to read more. You're going to study a little bit more. You're going to ask a few more questions because you want to know. If you're sort of lukewarm on whatever it is you've picked, you're like, I got to do, whatever course that you're not liking today. So your college network can have equal value to your degree. The people that you meet and you're going to carry along with you in your life. I would also say this is the opportunity to explore as broadly as you can. There's a movement nationally to make bachelor's degrees 90 credit hours instead of 120, which is your standard for a bachelor's degree now. And those extra 30 hours are where you're supposed to explore a different minor, a subject you think you might be interested in, but you're not really sure. You've got to get outside your comfort zone. And that goes along with trying an internship. Even if it's an unpaid one, just getting in the field that you think you want to be in and seeing what really is going on. Because it looks good from the outside, but until you're actually in there on the floor watching it all happen, there's a whole different point of view. So you want to explore broadly, but commit narrowly. Just because you're exploring something doesn't mean you're committing to it for your life. Now, one thing I would say about who disappeared in here? Cooper disappeared, and he was big into finance. And I would say that that is a really important thing for you to start thinking about now. Even if you don't have any money, but just a tiny bit, to think about how if you saved $5 a week, that at the end of the year, you'd have an extra $250 to do whatever you wanted to with, like right now, or pretty close to it. Just little budget stuff can be helpful to you, because these money habits matter more than how much there is. Oh, I'm going to save a little bit from each paycheck. Dovetailing on what Marianne said, and also Bailey was talking a lot about health things. Your health's really important. The body that you inhabit now, you're going to have to live with 20 years from now. David works with a lot of senior people, who probably wish they'd taken a little better care of themselves 20 or 30 years ago. And once you get there, you can't go back. You can work on it and maybe improve your overall physical ability, but you can't change 30, 40 years of negative habits. So making little changes right now can really help. Well, it's like, without even looking, as a senior person, what do they tell us as a senior? Caloric intake, what and how many calories you take in. cardio, working your heart, strength building, you got to do some muscle work, because at a certain age your muscles just go away. They fade if you don't use them. Fourth, 7 to 8 hours sleep, minimum. I'd say the fifth thing, de-stress. First four are really important. That's just your whole body. But the fifth thing, your psychology of limiting stress, is really important. I've said that throughout the class. If it's out of your control, see if you can not think about it. Tell yourself not to think about it. I'd encourage anybody to study psychology and how the mind works and how you can train your mind to think what you want it to think. And words matter. Your body hears you. That's why I've always said in here, when you make a mistake, don't say, oh, sorry, my bad, whatever. Your body hears that. You want to wake up and, you know the power pose, like the Wonder Woman pose? Like you're supposed to get in the mirror in the morning and say, I'm a bad whatever, and I'm going to do really good today, right? Or the other way is like put your arms up in the victory pose, just for 10 seconds. Yay, I'm great. Now let me get to the class. Your body listens to you, and your health's really important. Think of yourself as someone who takes care of their future self. How many grams of sugar per day are you supposed to have before it becomes negative health-wise?
I think it's like 60.
Too high.
Is it 50? 48?
45 for men, 35 for women. Look it up. Your body can't process any more than that. You have to work it off. If you don't do anything, where does it go? Well, I'll just say from the male side. It goes right here to your old dad bod belly. And women, you can figure it out as time goes on. Thinking clearly. Question your assumptions in everything you've ever been taught or told. Always. We're in a new era, just like JFK was saying. We're in a new era. With all the things happening technologically, all the things that we put in our bodies. Remember, anything that goes in, David was talking about this, anything that goes in, it has to go through, and as it goes through, it impacts you. Just a couple minutes left. I would say read widely. Go to the library sometime and just pull a book off the shelf and just see what it's about. I don't care. Put it back. Go to the next aisle. Pull another book off there. Hey, what's this about? Or get really adventurous and read the titles on the spines of the books and find one that actually interests you. Check it out, take it home, and put it on your bedside table and look at it before you go to sleep instead of your phone. I'd also say it's really important here for you to build your portfolio so you can show potential employers what you can do. It's not just your degree and your transcript, but some evidence of what you can do. You'll get toward that as a senior. I'd also protect your attention. Put your phone somewhere else. The studies show this now. If it's even just on the table in front of you, it's distracting you. Put it in your backpack, put it in a drawer, put it somewhere else. That way you can really focus. Because you have to protect your time. Your brain knows it can get some serotonin. It's like, hey, it's there. Just let me look at it for 30 seconds, which becomes 30 hours. And the next day, and you haven't done any of your work. Study in blocks. And the other big thing, 15 seconds left. It's okay to not know what you're doing, what your purpose is, what your major is, what you really want to do. This is where you're supposed to find that out. Once you find it, you'll know. Okay, so I wanted to throw those little advice points in. On Thursday, we're going to practice our extemporaneous speeches. So we'll see you later on.